All right, team, welcome back to our day 14 and maybe our last session from our Java live trainings, at least for the fundamentals. There's a lot that you've learned. Now it's good time to start putting them into implementations. Previous team, we looked at how we do a file handling. So let's look at some of the codes. So we saw our how we were doing file handling, where we can file or new file, how basically managing different documents. This is a text file in this case. And we also spoke about how we can write onto a new file if you want. These are important activities, team, because primarily your Java is a programming language in between. But there are so many things that it can connect to. Things like a text file or a Word document or an Excel file. How can it read and write? How can it interact with an XML or with a JSON, okay, format? Or how, similarly, how it does RESTful APIs with it, how it can interact with Selenium WebDriver, browser. So all of these are different libraries, team. So your core Java programming remains the same. How and what libraries we use matters. Each of this team is, look at it like an overall class with its own variables, methods, and so on. So when we want to read or write or do any interaction with them, we use these features. Now, the same thing you can also put into HTML formats. You can unlimited amount of things. So that is why Java is a very open source language. Not, I mean, open source also because it's free and don't have a licensed version and all that. But it also has a lot of contributors. Anyone who's working on building something will try and make sure as a software application it has that can involve with Java. Times it could be simple format of how data is. Why is this breaking your team then? That's your
Our team reconnected to my phone. Hope the audio is better. So I was explaining about how Java can interface and interact with many other Java archived resources and libraries as and when needed. We are exploring a few teams, and the concept will continue to remain the same for whatever you do. We also saw how we could do read and write from an Excel sheet. So in this case, what we use is we created a class called excel.java. You see this? This is a public class. Even if it's not, I can still use it within the same package project folder. If it's private also. But the fact is, we have two static methods. There's a read Excel method and a write Excel method. What do these methods do? That's very important. And as you proceed in your own understanding team, you can crawl through this content. Just to give you a brief idea, I'll read this data for you or content. So you'll try and understand what I'm saying. It takes two data teams. Where is that Excel located? You should tell me where it is located. I need to know the file path correctly. Okay, don't make mistake in that. And then an Excel file could have multiple sheets. What is the name of this sheet? So is it sheet 1, sheet 2, or test cases, test steps? What is it that you have there? Then we go about this methodology. So primarily what we're doing is reading the file from this path into my Excel, opening it as an input stream because we want to read data from it. Apache POI, core obfuscation interface, and HSSF, which is horrible spreadsheet format. Bad name, but that is primarily what is given for reading from an Excel. helps us to read from a .xls file. So if I say the specific sheet name, at this point, I have this object called my sheet. It's almost similar to a two-dimensional array. It has rows and columns. So I get the number of rows from it. I get the number of columns from it using the get last row number and get row. See, this get last row num and get row. Okay, team, listen to me very carefully. Are methods that have been that are present in the HSSF sheet or its parents class. So when I say my sheet dot, automatically I will see whatever methods I can do perform on that. And if there are any arguments, I can get that data also. So Apache POI, what is it that they did? They gave us this reusable class as a jar library, so we can import it and start using those methods directly. So that is how these packages work. They give us the ability to start interacting. All the coding is done behind it. So similarly, I don't need to know exactly the entire editor of read Excel. What goes in, what comes out is also sometimes sufficient. But nevertheless, Xdata I have now as a two-dimension string. Now I know the size of it. If I did not know the size of it, we will go to using something like an array list, where I can keep on adding to that array list at that time. All right. Ting, 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 ting. Two-dimensional array list. We'll have to look at it. Where are my exception handy? So, no, read write. We're still here. I'm just summarizing what we did. So here what we're doing is now very simple. Two for loops, iterating between the rows and columns. We're printing the data. It comes directly in Excel data. Sorry, I'm here, Excel.java. So here, similar thing. We get the row. These are all the methods that are there in my sheet, which is SSF sheet objective. So now it returns based on whatever values, it formats it back to text and returns the overall two-dimensional array. This two-dimensional array which is there is what gets written. That's my read Excel. Now write Excel does the reverse operation. I need to know where you want to write to. I need to know the sheet name and maybe the position where you want the sheet to be present. And then what is the data you want to write? Data into any sheet into an Excel will go as two-dimensional array because it has rows and columns. That's why we have a two-dimensional string array. And this does the flip of it. It navigates through the whole thing, checks if the file exists or so, and then what does it do, and so on. So use these as is team right now so that you're able to work with them. That's very key to begin with. Now we have the read write Excel. So I have a sample.xls. Where is that? There we go. I don't know which is an Excel and XLS. So I'll just say this is a now I'll save this as sample one team dot XLS version. Okay, so that is what HSSF takes. So now I have sample one, I have sample. So it has to be in that dot XLS version team. I got that. So I'll say sample one dot XLS. Anything from that sheet should be there in sheet one. So let's see. Sheet one. So I have these data. Now all I'm doing is read from the sheet. Go to each, get the length. So all okay, here is the main thing. Excel is a class, public class, with a static method called read Excel. So I do not need to create an object for it. In that I pass where my file is, name of the sheet. I'll get the data into Excel data. I can get the length of it. It will become the row. Go to the first row, that is, our open square bracket 0, and get the length of it. Now, once we've got this team, I'm printing out as to what is happening. Here I'm using print only. So that way what happens is, when we print, it does not go to a new line. But at the end, I'm printing a new line here once I'm done with each row. And if it equals to C, okay. So I'm saying I can change as to what I want to do and then write back to it. So new C is going back to the same file as Excel data, but I don't know if this is working correctly or not. So what I will do is sp underscore result just to test team for now, because sometimes it may not be doing correctly. So I want to make sure RES is there. Okay. Now I'll write a new sheet at this point. So here's my data. I don't think it has to be closed. It can still read from it, but let us see. So, read write, Excel, where it failed? In write Excel. Why did it fail? Sheet index -1 out of range, no sheet. What is -1 out of range? There's something wrong with this Excel 130. It did everything. It didn't replace C. 1 second, team. We found a problem with some content. Do you want us to recover as much? Yes, let's see. See, there's something that is not finishing to write. This write Excel is definitely not the most perfect one, team. Doing too many things into it. Okay, where do I want to write to? Sheet 1. If it exists. If there is no sheet 1 here, then it will be a problem. But then, let me solve this quickly. Sheet 1 is there now. So all I'm doing in this is replacing old C with a new C like this. It will come the whole thing. Let's try again, team. I'm not sure where and why it's failing. I just want to see. It's all that read write Excel class not found. Definitely not writing correctly, team. Let me get a better one. It should not take too long. I have so many of these here. There's no code in this. Wonder why. Just March, KDF, source, drivers. I'm using the same one, I guess. Is right Excel. I'm using the same one. See, sheet index. Let me see. DDF. Still the same code as you. There was a much simpler version, team. This one has too many complications. I don't know who created this in my team, and it got stuck like that. Give me a second. Read Excel is here. Write Excel in this. Give me a second, team. It's the same one. Then what's going wrong? Okay, let me debug this code. Let's debug and see where it's going wrong. That's a better way to do. So we'll know what's really going wrong because we are there. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here and let's do a debug run. Switch to debug perspective. Okay, I'm going to step into. So it will go into, okay, it's already come into, there's a debug here also. Okay, so I'll resume. That way it will come down till write Excel. So far, no defect, but it's coming up when we're trying to write here. So I'll go in here. So file output file. So that's good. Sheet 1, I'm saying. Okay, that's good. So our file is true. It exists and all that. So it basically is going through that execution. I'll just step out from that. Come on. I went a little deep. Let me come out. I'm just seeing as to what all it's trying to do. Okay. So finally is dot close. So did it do something? I'm not sure yet. We here step into and sheet 1 sheet index 0. What? Why is it getting stuck? Oh, there we go. We already got it. There's a problem. Well, no OLE2 file exception. Invalid header signature. File appears not to be valid OLE2 document. If I delete it, then it has another problem. Someone else was also saying that they had an issue today, but I'm going to fix that. Should not take too long for us. Give me a second. Okay, back to our code. I'm going to delete that file and I'm going to rerun this thing. Sorry, some of these take time and I don't want to skip them. If there's an issue, I want to try and resolve it. So let's see how it works. So my result is here. Sample1 underscore result.xls. So it should primarily, if I give a sheet 1, what's wrong? So what do I give otherwise? Let's look at that. Read something is still not very clear. Let's see. Let's look at the logic. Okay, and here read Excel, fine. Oh, sorry, this is the right Excel. If the file is true, .exist is true. The file and it exists, then input stream, sheet index. If sheet get number of sheets. Oh, if it exists. Then we're creating a sheet. Okay. If it doesn't exist, sheet, set sheet order, sheet name, and index. So the code is correct, team. I don't know what I'm giving wrong in this. Okay, so let's see. Output 0 Excel data. Nearest in this? No. Let's rerun this. Regular run editing. Now I got no errors, and I got trample1 underscore res created, and C got changed to new C. There was no error, team. I don't know where the issue came, but I primarily reran it almost the same. But when I gave sheet 1, it gave me an error. So I'm just changing this to sheet 1 and rerunning. And it is still working. It could go there. Maybe it'll add a new sheet. There you go. See? Got sheet 1 to it. And it says this is what is there. And that's fine. So this is how I'm able to write data back. So far so good, everyone. Read data, make some changes, and write based on what we want. We spoke briefly about exception handling, and now we'll continue and do a little bit more, team. So what is exception handling? Where do we use it? Very critical. Primarily when you do not know where your program may fail. A runtime error can occur anywhere. So how do you know that it occurred? How do you catch that and take some action on it? And how do you proceed on to do the remaining part of what is needed for your program execution? That is the critical part. So the different types of exceptions that come in, each one has its own detail of it. So when I say try, I'm basically saying that try this piece of code, anything in this curl bracket. So what's said in this piece of code? I have two integers, x and y, 10 and 0. I'll say in C is x by y, so I'm dividing by 0, which we cannot do. So this throws an error. Actually, I think it will throw an error on line 16 itself. It won't even go to line 17. So when it throws an error, automatically it comes to handle that exception. Okay, and I'll talk about the next level also of the team, what happens. That is one. Second, I'm saying that, hey, you know what, there's a file here, sample.txt. But in fact, let us assume there's no file like that. Is there a file? There is actually. So sample.txt, I'll just rename it. So what scan is my data? I'm not reading anything into my data. I am, but just printing it. Okay. So I'm reading that entire file and printing the next line from it. So if the file exists, it will tell me that the file exists and it will print it. If the file doesn't exist, it will throw an error. The next one is arrays index out of bounds. So I have an array 10, 20, 30, 40. But if I want to print something that is beyond that, so 0, 1, 2, 3 is okay. But what happens if you want to print 4? So when I run this code, it will give you a bunch of errors. Execution won't stop. See, it says arithmetic exception, file not found exception, array index out of bounds exception. So what does that really mean for us? Okay. Now let's say I have a code. Sorry, the mouse is acting funny with me. All right. I'm going to copy all of this code. All this try catch into this new one. I'll remove comments and so on, so it'll be a little easy to look at. I'll remove the try catch also. I have only one code. I don't have any try catch in this. Let's say issue. Now this is where it starts getting interesting. Once you understand this concept, exception handling will be very clear. Ting, ting, ting. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'll just put a throws exception here, team, for now, because we are handling some files. There could be a chance that it could throw. So here is my new code without any try catch. Okay? Now let us execute this. What would happen, team? It will fail at the very first instance, which is divide by 0, and it will not go to the remaining part of it. Now let me make y has 2. So will line 8 or 9 fail anymore? It won't, because it's not anymore dividing it by 0. So it will go on to the next one where we are doing this file interaction. So we have 3 sets of code. Look, this one will throw a number exception. This one will throw a file not found. This is array index out of bounds. So now I'll run this. So the first one, it printed that 10 by 2 is 5, and then it says file not found exception. So let us solve this also. And now let us run this. Now it says array index out of bounds. So it's trying to do everything till the end as long as it doesn't fail. How can I give it an instruction that, you know what, try some code. If it fails, then let me know why it failed. Focus on this part, being very, very critical. So int x, let me put it into y, right? Now, I'll just say this though, caught an exception, and I'll say plus e. The object here called e right now, team, holds the information about this exception. I'm converting it into a text format and printing it out. So whatever be the first error, it will show me. Okay, whatever be the first error. So it's not showing me that, okay, so for example, what are all the errors? It does not show me. But it goes about its execution. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Are all of you ready to answer and tell me which line the execution will fail? Let us say I change this back to 0. Where will it say caught an exception? On which line, T? Can everyone answer me? Which line would it say that I caught an error? Come on. Yes, Divya, you're right. Pinky, you're right. Kiranmay, you're right. Bhargavi, you're right. Who else? Shamkunar, you're right. It will come on line 10. Let's try this, okay? Caught an exception by 0. So it caught it, it printed, and it didn't tell me which line though, but it's gone from there. And it's saying that I have an exception. It's not even going to print z value for it. Now, if I change this back to 10, 10 by 10 is 1. And now, if I say this is sample-2, which is not there. Now, where will it throw an error? Line 14 is just a string, 15 is saying that there's a file there. 16 is reading. So I'm thinking 15 or 16 myself, not sure. 14 it won't show an error because 14 is just a variable, right? It does not care what you give inside. It is not even checking if a file exists or not. It is just seeing what you want to put, or you put a string. Inside the content of the string, it does not bother. So definitely it will not fail on 14. I should put a breakpoint, or I should be able to find which line did it fail. If I remove that cat, then it will tell me, but that's fine. I'm trying to come to something else. So see, each time I don't know where it is failing. Is it failing this portion or this portion or this portion? Each one is an exception. So what we can do instead is we create multiple catch statements. I'll say catch file not found exception. So under file not found, let me not make any spell error, exception, E1, I'll say. Doesn't matter. You can just say E, it is only local till here. And the error in this case, I'll just say is that file not found. This may require an import. There you go. So primarily, your exception is like your parent superclass team. Okay. And it has this basic interface of how exceptions should look. It will give everything. Then there are array index out of bounds, or file not found, or elements not identified, and so on Selenium. Each of that gets specific. So I can specifically say if file not found, then do something else. This catch statement should not come here now. Maybe I can put it here. What was the other one, team? There was an arithmetic exception or something, right? Let's look at that too. What was the other one that we saw? Let's run this. We'll see all the three. Those cancel. Where is the error? In 52. That's a different one. I'll come to you. No problem. Run this. Proceed. So arithmetic exception, file not found exception, array index out of bound exception. That's the arithmetic exception. And then this is array index out of bounds. Exception is also there. E. So, and it has to be specifically recognized, team. And once we have spoken about what these exceptions are, we can say arithmetic exception. Array index. Now see what happens. Now let us say there is any other error. Let me see what are the other errors we can put in a simple way. Exception list. Arrays class cast. Okay, tick, 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 tick. Okay. See? Something that I can use. I'm just seeing. So many errors, team, that comes up. IO errors. file not found is there. File not found is one exception, right, team? But let us say arithmetic file not found is here. So file not found, when it will happen? So okay, now work with me, okay? I have 3 exceptions. Each one does a different catch. So think of it like a fish net, but each one has its own size. It only catches specific one. Okay. Now, if file is not found, this is correct, and this also I'll keep it as correct for now, and we run this. File not found exception, correct? But then, what did I want to write? I wanted to do something, I forgot. Did I lose audio with you? Okay, this file not found. Only that error is coming up. Now, let us say I keep that sample.txt as is. Team, are you able to hear me? Can you hear me, everyone? Can you hear me, team? Team, I don't know if you're able to hear me.